and welcome to World Insight with me, Tianwei. The program is coming to you live on CGTN from Beijing. The Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, or known as the CPPCC, wrapped up its annual session on Wednesday. And this year's National People's Congress will also come to an end in the coming 2 days. During the 2 weeks of Chinese political season, Chinese President Xi Jinping joined many delegates and also panels in various fields. Let's go through some of the major topics and discuss with our panel later about what he has in mind during these discussions.
During this year's 2 sessions, Chinese President Xi Jinping took part in 6 meetings with delegates from different fields. He had delivered his wish list on the issues raised by Chinese lawmakers and political advisors. In the panel with members from the arts, culture, and social science, the Chinese president said art should be based on reality and wished that artists would tell the story of a changing China. He emphasized the importance of protecting natural scenery in Inner Mongolia during his talks with the region's delegates. Meanwhile, as 2020 is set to be the year of eliminating absolute poverty across the country, the president told deputies from Gansu province to win this battle no matter the difficulty. President Xi praised the agricultural, social, and economic progress made by Henan province in his next stop.
I often go into less developed areas and villages. When I get there, I always ask local people what they still need. Our comrades living in the villages want a happy life. I think we're now working on that, but there is still a lot to be done. That is our next step.
In his speech delivered before the Fujian delegation, the Chinese president sought a good environment for high-tech companies and employment and to grow business investments. And President Xi's last stop was the meeting with delegates of the People's Liberation Army and Armed Police, where he highlighted the importance of improving military management. As can be seen, the Chinese president pulled out all the stops in attending meetings and briefing the Chinese public about major issues close to their hearts in this year's Chinese political season.
For more on the NPC meeting, we have in our Beijing studio Zhang Gong, a professor from the University of International Business and Economics. Also joining us in Beijing, Yang Xiyu, senior research fellow from the China Institute of International Studies. Gentlemen, welcome to our program. Well, the point that we're trying to make here is what exactly are the messages get across to the rest of the world while Chinese President Xi Jinping has been carefully chosen the specific delegations he goes to and also interact with. So, Mr. Yang, what is your general impression?
Well, I think every delegation, provincial delegation President Xi went was based on very thoughtful consideration, targeting at different key subjects. For example, when he visited a delegation from Fujian, on one hand, Fujian is the front line facing Taiwan, that potentially means Taiwan issue. But on the other hand, Fujian commands great potentials for business, and it's a fast-growing business there. So both business meaning and cross-strait relationship is very important. But when he go the other delegation talking about poverty, go to PLA delegation talking about military modernization. So every subject he talked about is the task we must to bring about and the challenge we are facing.
Yeah, Professor Gong, your thought?
I totally concur with that. I think some of his messages resonate with the grand strategies for this year, for example, the poverty elimination or alleviation, and also the very much attention towards the environment. These are the major tasks the party has set out for the rest of the year, and I think his talk at the 2 provincial delegations resonate with that. And also very impressed with his talk to the generals. I think he set a very grand and ambitious targets for the PLA to evolve in the next several years. He sets out three stages, right? Stages of targets, and these are, tall orders, and I think the PLA, has the potential to achieve these goals.
Right. There are a lot of topics that he's covered. This year, for example, at the Henan discussion, an NPC deputy, by the way, is the National People's Congress deputy. They are representing the locations they exactly was elected from, who is a farmer from a village in Henan province, told President Xi Jinping from China about farmers' dreams. Take a look.
The first dream of farmers is to experience reform and opening up. And now, after more than 4 decades, the minds of farmers has been transformed. Now we have a second dream, to send kids to a good school. The third dream is to be able to go to a good hospital so that the whole family can be healthy.
That is a quote coming from a farmer who's also an NPC deputy, talking when Chinese President Xi Jinping was visiting the delegation of Henan province. Now, this farmer is a very strong accented Henan person, and that there's even some sense of humor in it, listening to his accent. But you could see every year during the political season, it is one of the best time and the most efficient time to look at different issues facing China and to meet people from the grassroots, like this farmer deputy coming from Henan province. And they all gathered here in the Chinese capital. But what he's talking about, Mr. Yang, of course, is what he called the 8 dreams of Chinese farmers. Well, I guess he's speaking for himself, but at the same time, relating to his peers. What is important here is that in China, the rural area is still a place that has to, there needs to be a lot of work. For example, in the rural area, it is the land, it is the agriculture issue. It is also the issue of migrant workers. Many of the young generation leave their home and work in the cities and leave their countryside only with the youngest and the oldest. So a lot of things going on there when this farmer talked about his 8 dreams, Mr. Yang.
Actually, that farmer, what the farmer talked about, the dreams really reflect the typical type of Chinese farmer's dream is in the enhancement and the enlargement. For example, 40 years ago, before the reform and opening, they had a dream, say, every day I had enough food. That would be great. But now, that's far from enough. They have more and more dreams. He said, 8 dreams, maybe 10 and several tens. So in the course of the modernization of China, especially the course of the modernization in Chinese countryside, the farmer's dream is enlarged and enhanced, more diversified, more and more.
That is something that China has to deal with, isn't it, Professor Gong? I mean, on the one hand, you have people asking for better lives. On the other hand, the Chinese economy is slowed down, at least the growth rate.
Yeah, well, I mean, on one hand, I'm really impressed with the way he communicates with President Xi. But on the other hand, I'm also a little bit saddened that the things he's talking about are actually basic needs, right? And he's talking about very basic needs, the things I think every people in China should be entitled to. And he laid out, the second dream, the third dream. I think they shouldn't be dreams. I mean, everybody has the right to have access to good schools, to access to medical care, and these things should be available right now. So I think, this is one more example that shows that China is indeed not a developing country as many Western countries have claimed. I wish the press corps in Beijing, the foreign press corps in Beijing, would be able to listen to him and hear what the average folk here in China, in rural countryside, their condition, what they are aspiring for. And these are very basic needs. And, it's China is not like the Western countries. We still have 16 million people who are still under poverty. So,
well, poverty issue was also mentioned when the Chinese president was visiting the delegation from Gansu province. Of course, that is a province in China's far west in a way. However, even if it is located in that area, there is plenty opportunity if we want to start with something. For example, the Belden Road Initiative. It is really about developing the Far West as well as creating partnerships around the world. Professor Gong, about that, how long will the localities be able to fill the poles of whether it's Belden Road Initiative or the building of larger infrastructures to benefit them eventually?
Yeah, I think you raised a very important issue. I think the Belt and Road Initiative is not just about projects and infrastructure projects outside of China. There are plenty of areas, plenty of locations within China that need that kind of projects. You know, when the Belt and the Road Initiative is talking about, cooperation in capacities of manufacturing, and there are places in China that needs that. I mean, companies on a coastal area, they don't have to necessarily go to Cambodia or go to Sri Lanka or go to Africa. There are places in Western China where the wages are equally competitive and people need jobs. Low-end manufacturing jobs that are labor-intensive. So these things I think that the government can do. I mean, the government needs to help local governments to build up infrastructure, transportation, communications, and other infrastructure projects.
Anti-poverty.
Such that companies can relocate there and create jobs.
I see. Anti-poverty is one of the three battles, quote unquote, that China is fighting right now. Besides that, there's also environmental problems as well as financial risks. So it seems that the poverty alleviation has been put on such a priority, even reflected by the shall I say, the visit by Chinese President Xi Jinping to different delegations, not to mention other discussions related to that, Mr. Yang.
Well, I think poverty alleviation is one of the three key tasks because of two reasons under Xi Jinping leadership. On one hand, politically, we are a socialist country, and we seek for economically and politically equality. And poverty really impedes the equality. So we must remove the poverties. And economically, without removing the poverty, the economy cannot be sustainable. So that is why the Central Committee of the party set this issue as a top priority. And they have set up a lot of measures and policies designed to remove the poverties in very short period.
Right. Well, the other thing is about the environment for businesses. When Chinese President Xi Jinping visiting the delegation of Fujian, that is a message that was quite out there. It's about creating sound business environment for investors. Now, Professor Gong, that's really your expertise, isn't it? I mean, now China is rather trying to update the foreign investment law.
Right.
We would not know the result until the end of this year's NPC, which is 2 days from now, whether that will be passed or not. But 2015, there was also a draft. It was not passed because of the complications and many of the players involved. So, Professor, how do you think China as a critical juncture? On the one hand, you have the negotiations going on between China and the United States. Then you also have very soon the WTO reform. And then also China's growth rate comes down, yet at the same time the domestic market becoming larger. So at this critical juncture, how should China really build the sound business environment for everyone?
Yeah, I think China's open door policy, the implementation of further opening up policy should not be deterred by the complications you've mentioned for things like the dialogue with the United States, about the trade friction, the slowing down of the economy. These are, difficult challenges, but I don't think they should slow down the pace at which we further opening up, because this is very critical. This concerns the very future of our economy. We can't afford the old way of doing things anymore. We export a lot of things, right? We maintain a huge trade surplus, and this kind of situation I don't think can sustain for long, both economically and politically. And it's actually also up to our own interest to do that, because I think overall a more competitive environment, business environment, is conducive to economic growth. It's conducive to people's welfare. It's conducive even to the competitiveness of increasing competitiveness of corporate China as well.
I see. But Mr. Yang, we do see the trade number drops in recent statistics provided by the Chinese government. So that gives us some hint as to things have to be done in order to create better sound investment opportunities for all, and also be able to give equal treatment to whether it's SOEs or private firms as well as multinationals operating in China. So Mr. Yang, given your knowledge of the latest development, what is the level of opening up that we're really talking about here?
Well, I think now China's economy and the political society is at a juncture facing upgrading a new type of reform and openness. I always make a description, say, during the past 40 years, we had a reform version 1.0, characterized by step by step, from bottom to the top, touching the stone, crossing the river by touching stone. In short, in experimental style of the reform. And now we enter the second phase, say, comprehensive designed plan guiding the process of the reform. And we are going to a new type of openness from one way to two way. So that is the totally different, new different type than before.
We are running out of our time, but certainly a lot of messages from this year's two sessions. We only analyzed the remarks made by Chinese President Xi Jinping when he's visiting different delegations. Of course, there are many other things that we can digest from this year's two sessions. Thank you so much, the two of you, for joining us. Zhang Gong, Yang Xiyu, really appreciate it. Welcome back. You're still watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. The Belden Road Initiative is a top concern at this year's two sessions. China's grand idea is aimed at nurturing partnerships all over the world for win-win results. But there are some misgivings about the initiative and China's intention in promoting connectivity through it. A better understanding is needed, and Paris Forum on the BRI is a place to set the record straight. The conference was held first in 2017, and the second was held in January at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris. It was packed with participants from governments, think tanks, universities, and businesses. CPPCC member Kong Chuan, the former Chinese ambassador to France, who also serves as the deputy director of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the CPPCC National Committee, took part in the forum. In today's special series, Wei in Two Sessions, he talked about the Paris Forum and a time he and his European counterparts shared the wisdom of history and inspiration for today.
所以在这次会议上呢，我做了一个发言。
I delivered a speech at this meeting because it is only a few days away from January 27th, the 55th anniversary of diplomatic relations between China and France. Speaking of the anniversary, I still remember when President Charles de Gaulle bucked opposition from France's Western allies in having diplomatic ties with China. He firmly said that the decision to establish diplomatic relations with China was a choice with necessity and reason.
Tell me how he said it in French.
Une option de l'évidence et une option de raison.
Why is it relevant today? Particularly, you were spreading the message at the forum about Belt and Road Initiative. What are you trying to say there?
我认为当时他谈到必然的选择和理性的选择的时候。
I think when he talked about the choice of necessity and reason, he thought that he could not ignore a rising China playing a greater role in international affairs. So I think he used these two words. When I quoted these two words from President Charles de Gaulle at this meeting, there was still a very positive response. I think today, France and other European countries should also have a choice of necessity and reason.
Do you think they will? Do you think they will choose wisely?
I believe that they will come to this conclusion after thoughtful consideration. The Belt and Road Initiative, which committed to planning together, building together, and sharing together. It is bound to be the inevitable and rational choice of European countries, including France.
Talking about history, after World War II, some of the countries led by the United States forged institutions like the World Trade Organization, the International Monetary Fund, and the Bretton Woods system, which have dominated geopolitical affairs for more than 70 years. But now, the model appears to, some say, cracking under a surge of nationalism and trade protectionism. What would it take to fix the world order and make it more comprehensive so as to let more voices be heard? China's Belt and Road Initiative, believed by Ambassador Kong, works to complement this global system. But are all countries on board with the vision? I asked that question to Ambassador Kong. It is easy choice if they didn't subscribe to the idea of Belt and Road Initiative, because that means they stick to the old world rule and opportunities. But if they choose otherwise, that means they are in an uncharted water. So do you think they will really be able to choose the opportunity and choose the future?
The question you mentioned do represent some opinions in some European countries. I feel that since the initiative put forward 5 years ago, some of the doubts have dissipated with the actual results of the Belt and Road Initiative. In the process of carrying out projects, there will be new questions and concerns. I think we should accurately respond to these new problems, answer new concerns, and demonstrate to the people and countries along the Belt and Road Initiative that the initiative is to serve the common interests of all countries.
If some people have certain perceptions for a long time, debt trap, geopolitical ego, things like that, how would you be able to respond to them?
Some problems are due to ignorance. Some problems are due to misunderstandings. Some problems are just like what you said. Actually, the old thinking that China is engaged in its own geopolitics, which is not the situation at all. From the beginning, President Xi Jinping put forward the Belt and Road Initiative, committed to planning together, building together, and sharing together. Therefore, this is not the issue of one country, but working together.
But they would say, words are words, actions are actions. Those are two different things.
I believe that it will be more persuasive when there are more cooperation achievements. The initiative has considered the people's concerns in each country, when there are more parties participating in the projects.
But you know, one of the challenges, the Belt and Road Initiatives are mainly about infrastructure. And infrastructure takes a long time to initiate, build, and eventually have a result. In other words, it takes some time for you and for China and all the partners on the Belt and Road Initiative platform to show to the rest of the world what has been achieved and what's the nature of this achievement. It's about timing.
Infrastructure indeed is a very important part in the 5 connectivities of the Belt and Road Initiative. I have not only visited the projects of the Belt and Road Initiative in European countries, I also went to Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. I feel that the Belt and Road Initiative is a continuous development proposal, a grand blueprint. Indeed, in some countries, there is an urgent need of infrastructure construction. It is true that infrastructure construction projects have a long period of investment, long cycle of construction, and the economic returns take long time. However, it should be noted that the completion of these infrastructure projects will provide a very solid foundation for the overall development of the country's economy. As China has often said in the past, build the roads to get rich. But I would like to say that there are growing expectations to have more mutually beneficial cooperation with China in other areas, including what we say, the people-to-people connectivity. I recently went to Pakistan, India, and Sri Lanka. You know the issue about the Sinhalese language and the Urdu language. The locals help the Chinese people use their language to communicate with them. Maybe you know that in the past, our Beijing Foreign Studies University has been able to train more than 50 kind of translators. At one time, due to lack of attention, it has dropped to more than 30 kinds. Now it has returned to more than 70 kinds. It will increase to more than 100 in the future. I have been working for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In 2006, I counted the non-common languages that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had mastered at the time. There are 36 languages in it. Some languages, such as Icelandic, Danish, Norwegian, and Finnish, have only one person who can use it skillfully. Therefore, the Foreign Committee also put forward this proposal. I hope that it will not only be considered from the Belt and Road Initiative, but also as a way for China to develop with a more respectful attitude of other countries, including understanding their language and culture. It is very important to build a community of shared future for mankind.
This is China's first time, one would argue, since become the second largest economy in the world and the largest developing country in the world, to put forward a global mechanism such as the Belt and Road Initiative so that everybody can benefit on top of that. If you think about before, there's nothing like that China has ever tried. So it seems that China has to be on the learning curve always, because this is really the very first time. How is it like for you as a professional diplomat and also a policymaker regarding China's communication as well as China's foreign policy? Think about this uncharted water for China.
你的提问使我想起了几年前我们在18大之后曾经谈到的一个
Your question reminds me of the idea that we talked about a few years ago after the 18th National Congress, that the interests of the Chinese people are integrated with the interests of the vast number of developing countries. China's development is in line with the development of mankind. You just mentioned that China has become the world's second largest economy. However, it is far from the standard. It is encouraging to see what we have achieved today from poverty and weakness, but there are a lot of shortcomings that need to be fixed. But I think with China's development, as Mr. Deng Xiaoping mentioned in his early years, China should make greater contributions to mankind. From this perspective, the Belt and Road Initiative is indeed a new way in a new era to fulfill our responsibility to neighboring countries for a common future. From this point of view, many problems can be solved easily.
共同发展的责任的这么一个角度来观察，我认为很多问题就可以迎刃而解。
China made quite a few milestones in the past 40 years of reform and opening up. The 2008 Beijing Olympic Games is one of them. CPPCC member Kong Chuan helped make the Games happen while serving as the ambassador to France at that critical time. Hosting this popular sports event has been etched in the memory of the Chinese people. The Olympics was also a challenging time since there were skepticism and doubts around the world about China's ability to pull it off. But eventually, after the spectacle of the opening ceremony and the games took place, everyone was blown away. As observers put it, because it's a totally different China that they are seeing from the one in their minds. How do you compare the challenges that China faced before 2008 Olympic Games with what now that China is relatively facing? Also, doubts, questions, misunderstanding in front of the world.
每一个时代，我觉得我们中国在同
China will face some specific problems when developing mutually beneficial and friendly relations with different countries. In some countries, there may be political issues. In others, there may be economic and trade relations. Compared to 2008, the development of China has won more recognition and understanding by other countries. This is very important. Over the past 10 years, people have seen that the rising of China will not result in a dominant power, which Western countries used to be. While developing its comprehensive economic strength, China will seek to have mutual benefits with other countries in the world with an open mind, to develop mutually beneficial cooperation among countries such as the Belt and Road Initiative. I think that the positive response to the Belt and Road Initiative is what we could not imagine 10 years ago.
You were there. You knew everything.
我处理了很多
The
棘手
torch
的问题，
relayed everything.
我这个处理了很多棘手的问题。
I was there in 2008 and dealt with a lot of tough problems, but I think even then, the French people were very excited that China could host the Olympic Games, because those who knew the situation saw that China could show a good performance in international competitions step by step from poverty and weakness, especially through the Olympic Games. It has indeed played a very good role in showing China's daily life and various aspects of China's situation.
的这个各方面的情况，也的确发挥了非常好的作用。
How were you dealing with it? I really want to invite your advice. I mean, you were there, you understand how you went through that process. On the one hand, China has great intentions. And you know it is not ill feeling. But on the other hand, there is the misunderstanding. And some of them just out of not knowing much about China at all, but reaching conclusions already. I mean, when you were an ambassador, it must be very frustrating to deal with this, very split kinds of perceptions. How were you dealing with it then?
我感到很重要的一点就是坦诚的交流。
I think it's very important for me to have an open communication. Through my conversation or communication with French people, I always hope they make up their own minds, and I will express China's consideration, policies, and proposals. I believe that only through exchanges, only through cooperation projects, the misunderstandings and doubts will be weakened and simplified. Some hostility cannot be eliminated, but we can have the confidence to grow together with people all over the world in today's extremely complex and challenging situation.
做出一番事业，来推动我们的共同发展。
You were in the middle of many important moments, both as ambassador and then later serve in the important position of Chinese diplomacy, and later also dealing with some of the territorial controversies between China and some of China's neighbors. What does it take now for China, really, to be able to get across its message and to patiently listen, particularly when one country is getting ever stronger than it used to be?
实际上边界问题呢，有着非常复杂的历史背景。
In fact, the border issue has a very complicated historical background. After the founding of the People's Republic of China, through friendly consultation and mutual accommodation, we have settled over 90% of the disputes concerning the demarcation of the border. I believe China will always uphold such a concept. We should gradually solve the border problem through friendly, peaceful, and equal in-depth consultation. Sometimes when the problem is more intense or reflects a more worrying situation, we should maintain a calm attitude. Sometimes, when the external environment is complex, it seems that the problem will bring about tremendous disturbances. We should maintain an objective mentality and work together to calm the situation. Even if we cannot solve it today, we can slowly and calmly continue to explore this issue in a peaceful way. So, I think that the issues you mentioned are also of concern to the people of the country. As a big country in the world, China's performance on these issues really has a demonstration role.
世界上一个大国，在这些问题上，中国的表现的确有示范作用。
That is Ambassador Kong Chuan, Deputy Director of the Committee of Foreign Affairs with CPPCC, talking to us exclusively. And that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more, try to find us World Inside CGTN into your search engine or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and see the Weibo. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone on the World Inside team, thanks for watching and tune in again next time for insights across China and around the world. Good night.